this is part of why I think relationships feel so freaking hard, is because we don't actually understand what relationships take. We are not trained to understand what a healthy dynamic, what a healthy, long-term, secure, functioning relationship actually takes to be in. Not because relationships should be easy. They're not.
What's up, everyone? Welcome into Hey Babe, Can We Talk? With me, your host and bestie, Drea Renee. If this is your first time here, welcome. This is the place where the hot mess expresses the black sheeps of love. And for those who just can't seem to get it right when it comes to matters of the heart, I am you, you are me, we are one. And if no one else gets you, I do. And if you're returning, I missed you, and we're going to have a great episode. I am so excited, you guys. We have Baya Voce on with us today. She is a relationship repair expert. And today we're going to be talking about why is it so hard to get relationships going today and tools to build reconnection. It's going to be good. But before we get into that, make sure you hit that like, follow, and subscribe down below because, as I always say, I love to hear from you guys. So let me know what you think about this episode. So without further ado, let's get into it with Baya Voce. All right, Baya, thank you so much for being here. I saw your Instagram and relationship repair expert. And for me, it was just like a light went on because I think relationships and repair, it's the basis of everything. So thank you so much for being here. Tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into being a relationship repair expert.
Thank you for having me. I am obsessed with repair in part because it's been the hardest thing I've ever done relationally. Like, that's just the truth. I have been dating for a long time. I've basically been in and out of relationships since I was in elementary school. Like, relationships have been the thing that have tied my life together, my life story together. So the truth is, repair has been one of the hardest elements of relationships for me to nail. In part, I would consider myself a highly sensitive, or some people call it deeply feeling, whatever you want, human being. And so it's hard for my partners to repair with me. Like, if they're not totally present, if they're not completely attuned, I'm like, well, you said the thing, but it felt a little off. So it actually doesn't land in my system as repair. And when I was in my 20s, I was engaged, and the guy ended up, for whatever reason, I don't even remember why I cared about this at the time, but I thought it was kind of this romantic idea that we would move in not when we were dating, but after we got engaged. I don't know why I thought that was a good idea. Now I would never recommend that. But anyway, whatever. So we hadn't moved in. We'd gotten engaged. After we got engaged, things started going south like real quick. And I went over to his house one day. And I walk in, we had like gotten into some fight about something. I don't remember what. And all of our photos were taken off of the wall. And I looked around and I was like, what is going on? And he looks at me and he's like, it's over. And I was like, what? And he was like that? Just like that. It was like, there was no conversation. He says, listen, I want kids. You don't want kids. This isn't going to work. And at that point, that we had had a million conversations about kids. Like, that was such a strange, it was like, we actually, I thought we're on the same page. So it made absolutely no sense. So he breaks up with me. I will never forget this moment. I was on my knees pleading, sobbing, like, please just give me a chance. I'll think about kids. Like, I'll read all the books. Just give me a week. Like, just like, give me a second. He's a hard no. He's totally stoic. Like, his heart was just completely gone from the conversation. Ooh, so girl. All of a sudden I was so confused after that I started doing a little bit of digging and realized he had been telling me lie after lie after lie. And I'm talking big lines, like what he did for work, like school.
This is your fiance?
This was my fiance. And by the way, at that time, I'm in the field of relationships. I'm living in Salt Lake City. I have a show on the ABC4 Utah channel. I'm their Utah's dating expert, blah, blah, blah. You know, I mean, I'm in my 20s. So like, do I actually know what I'm talking about? I don't know. But anyway, like I think of myself as somebody who would never get into a situation like this. Like, I feel like I'm smart. I feel like I would watch out for this. I do not imagine myself to be someone who would be able to be lied to in that way. Anyhow, so a month goes by. I decide I'm not going to say anything to him because I don't want to feel crazier than I already felt because all these lies are unraveling. And I am like,
Right.
what was I just in? Like, what? And a
Who
month
was I
later, he comes,
with?
yes, yes. A month later, he comes back and he has no idea I know about the lies. And he calls me and he's like, I made the biggest mistake of my life. He's sobbing, please, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, I would think that as a smart person who's in the relationship space, who knows all about this, blah, 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 I would be like, sorry, buddy, bye. Not what I did. Not what I did. I was like, okay, listen, I'm going to go to therapy with you. And in my head, I'm thinking I will confront you in therapy so I don't have to do it by myself.
Right.
And we'll see what happens. I just want to confront the guy. So I confront him thinking that's going to be it. Like he's going to lie about the lies and da, da, da. I confront him and he admits everything. He admits everything.
In therapy.
And in therapy. And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, well, this guy can change. Like, well, if he's saying all the right things, he's sobbing, he feels terrible. Okay. So in that moment, I'm like, I'm not going to get back into a relationship with this guy, but here's what I'll do. I'll like step in, see what, now that all cards are on the table, can we actually make this work? What I started noticing was I couldn't tell my family or friends because I was so embarrassed. I was so ashamed
You
that I
didn't
was
tell
even
them any of the
considering.
lies.
No, I told them about all the lies. I didn't tell them I was contemplating like going back in because they were
Ah,
all like, this
I
guy's insane.
mean,
Like I felt so much shame. I felt so much shame for even
right.
stepping back in. And then little by little, he started showing me over time that he kept saying things like, I'll do whatever it takes, as long as it takes, as long as you need, whatever you need, I'll be as patient. No, 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 no. Like very, very soon after that, he started, it started devolving, basically, to spare you the details. So from that point on, we split. And that point on, I started to be like, okay, what got me into the situation to begin with? How
Right.
did I not see the signs? And what does healthy love actually look like? Because from my understanding, it, my understanding at that point was what I think actually a lot of people's understanding is whatever we see on Disney, whatever we see on social media, whatever we see on Hollywood rom-coms, and then whatever we can do not to model what we saw growing up. Like just like let me do the opposite of that because that for most people we didn't grow up with healthy role models.
No, no.
And and the question that I continued contemplating over and over again was what is an unrealistic expectation and what is settling? What's the difference? Because I was so easily caught up in all the things he said, He was so good with his words that I actually wasn't as aware of his behavior, which, like, drum roll, surprise, surprise, to give the ending away. Like, it's all about behavior change. It just is. Healthy relationship. It doesn't actually matter how much you fight. It matters about how you make up. So anyhow,
You said it
that's
doesn't
how I
matter
got
how
into
much
it.
you fight, it matters how
No,
much you make. Oh,
no,
Bea,
no.
that's a hot take.
I have to tell you that though, that that the fact that it doesn't matter if you fight. I don't care how much a couple fights. They come into me and I'm not like, "Oh, you fight daily. Ooh, you're done. Like this is good." No.
Okay, interesting.
Some people have different stamina for conflict. Like some people have actually higher capacity and stamina for higher conflict relationships. Some people have lower capacity and stamina. It's sort of whatever your constitution is, right? And so it's not about how much you fight. It's whether or not you can make up after. Period, full stop.
And that's it.
That's it. That's it. I mean,
That's it.
listen, there are for sure unhealthy ways of doing conflict. If you're
Right.
name calling, if we're, and I'm, so what I'm talking about is outside the realms of abuse. It's outside of the realms of sociopathy, narcissism, personality disorder, like everything that we're going to talk about today assumes you're in a healthy enough relationship where two consenting adults are on the same page. There's not a massive power dynamic where you're
Okay.
because manipulation can really be taken in, the things that I'm talking about today, if someone uses them as manipulation tactics, then they can be really bad. So, that's why behavior change is so important because manipulation falls flat under the weight of behavior change.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing all of that because I do think we can get caught up in language and words. I dated a guy for a while. He had a golden tongue. And the actions just sort of went away. And I remember one time my therapist said to me, she goes, "Do you even like him?" And it's like I didn't even think about what I wanted. I was just so caught up in he said this, he said that, he said this, and we would get on the phone, we would be in front of each other, and it was words, 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 words. But there was no weight around any of his actions. So I want to ask you, the different tools to repair, does that vary from couple to couple? Does it matter who's doing the repair, who's showing up? Should it be balanced?
It's a great question. The tools are basically the same.
Okay.
Balance and fairness are sort of like, I wish relationships were fairer, but the truth is, if we're basing relationships on fairness, I think we're playing a losing game. Some people
Mm.
are more sensitive than others. Some people are going to need more repair. Yeah, same,
Girl,
same.
sensitive Sally. I feel all the feels. I notice a look, I notice a touch, I notice a movement. And like you said earlier, when things aren't landing, I'm like, what's wrong? Did something happen? That's
Totally.
just how I'm wired. Some people, it just goes past them. They're like, Dre, everything's fine. What? I'm sorry?
I know.
You don't
I
love
know.
me.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You want to break up. It's like, Drea,
Yeah,
I
for
didn't
sure.
say any of that.
I literally just told you that I wanted to spend the weekend with you. No, no, no.
I know, but do you
Totally.
want to spend the weekend with me? Like, would you
That's right.
die if you didn't? Okay.
Yeah. Because if you wouldn't die if you didn't spend the weekend with me, then something's off.
I'm like, who is she? Who is she? Just tell me her name.
Yeah.
All right. Let's just be honest.
It's funny because one of the things I talk about actually is this idea of being, and I'll talk about the tools, so I promise I'll get there, but this idea
No, girl,
of
do your
being
thing.
unrepairable with, that there is a way that the person who has a hard time for the repair landing. Like, it doesn't matter. My now wife works real hard at repair with me. Sometimes she nails it, sometimes she really doesn't nail it. And when she tries and like does everything that she can to nail it, and I am still over here being like, sorry, that's just not it. There's a part of me that I've got to reckon with, which is the part that's like, she's 80% of the way there. Why do I need her to be 110? And if she's not 110, then I actually cannot forgive her. Like, what is that in me that I need to look at? So I call it, you call it an 80-20 rule, whatever you want to call it really, but there is this kind of 80% that's like, if your partner does 80%, truly, they're like saying the thing, they're attuning, they're present, they're with you, and you're still like, no, that's not it. Then there's actually, it's the difference between knowing what their work is, knowing what the couple's work is, and knowing what your work is.
Always say that, Bea. That is so important.
It's so important. It's so important. But the truth is, if they're saying all the right things, but they're not attuned, I actually think there's a part that your nervous system feels the dissonance in that.
Yeah.
And that there's a way where, like, here's my basic understanding of repair as I see it now. So let me just kind of rewind here. I see repair as the practice of attunement and presence. So when you can attune to your partner's pain, acknowledge it, take accountability in the way that lands for your partner, right? And do that over and over and over again in the relational dynamic so that coming back together feels predictable, so that
Mm.
you know as a couple that you can fall out, you can have a rupture, you can have a bad fight, but predictably and reliably, you'll be able to come back again.
See, so this is what I call safe arguing. That is like, or safe disagreements, right? So like nowadays, people have no patience for any sort of issue that comes up because there's so many people, there's so many apps and so many options. So like you just said, getting to that point where you're like, we're having a disagreement, but this doesn't mean we are ending the relationship. It's over. I would always go to tragic thinking, you're abandoning me, you're leaving me, and all these things. But getting to that point, like you said, I love that you said predictable, where you're like, okay, I know that this isn't landing for them, this isn't landing for me, but we're going to work together to get to that good place.
Which actually, I love that you just brought this up, Drea, because the feeling of being abandoned or the fear of being left may not go away. But
Mm.
actually, one of the tools for repair is to, instead of letting it take you, if you're in a safe dynamic where you're not actually being manipulated or lied to, if you're in a safe dynamic, then what can happen is you can start to narrate that. So say your partner gets mad at you and they start to avoid and distance themselves. And all of a sudden that fear of abandonment, the fear that they're leaving comes up. A perfect thing to do at that point is, instead of letting that fear take over you, which can show up as, it could show up a million ways. It could show up as neediness. It could show up as grasping. It could show up a million ways. To narrate it and basically say, hey, I can feel the part of me that feels really scared you're going to leave. Can I just hear that you're not going anywhere? That's like
Mm.
a very mature stance. It's a very mature stance to be able to narrate. It's an adult stance to be able to narrate, hey, I can feel the part inside of me that is so scared this is going to end it all. I just want you to know so that you can know what's happening so that I don't have to let that part run the show. So I literally call it narrating your experience. You take what's on the inside and you
Mhm.
say it out loud. Or if you're the one who distances, I can feel myself wanting to go away right now. Like I can feel the
Right.
part of me that just wants to disappear and unhook. So if you can bring that level of maturity into and it's really the adult. Look, this is what happens in fights is your prefrontal cortex, which is in charge of all your rational thinking, all the part of you that knows this is just a fight and we're probably not going to end after this fight. That goes offline. Bye-bye. And what happens? Your amygdala, the part that's, and I'm
It's
simplifying,
hijacked.
this is completely hijacked. So all that rationale, bye, not
See
there.
ya.
Nope, 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 nope,
Girl,
nope,
my
not there.
7-year-old comes in and she's like, I got
Oh,
this. And I'm like, no, no, no,
yeah,
no,
no, no,
please,
I'll take it
please.
from here. I'll take it. Yeah,
She's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
I got
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
Don't worry about it, girl.
Yeah, yeah. Which actually in some of the work that I do, and I'm trained by Terry Real, who's a fantastic couples therapist. A lot of what he talks about is putting that 7-year-old behind you and being like, listen, love you, love you. You can't drive the car because if you drive the car, you're going to crash it, and that's not going to be good for so you don't need to. And what we start to learn when we begin to work with our parts and our younger selves, blah, 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 what we start to learn is they don't want to be in control anyway. They're 7. They have
It's,
no interest in being in an adult
she's like,
relationship.
girl, I got
So
cartoons and Cheerios
yeah,
to eat. Okay.
I'm busy. I'm
I'm
busy. I don't want to be
busy.
here. I don't want to be here. I'm busy. Yeah, 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 yeah. So you're like, great. I'm going to give you Cheerios and then I'm going to go in. And you going in is literally bringing back your prefrontal cortex online and being like, okay, what's needed now? What's needed now? Can I narrate the experience? But when your amygdala is taking over, you're not narrating anything. Are you kidding? That's just like,
Anything.
so like, there's a way where, part of your individual work is to understand when you leave your window of tolerance, which is just a fancy way of saying when you leave your threshold of being able to deal with the other person in front of you as your adult. When
An
you
adult.
start, yeah, yeah, because when you start to become a child and they start to become a child, now you're both just 7-year-olds throwing Legos at each other, and it sucks.
It sucks. And I can hear it in my voice because I am here. I'm in my body. I'm talking to you now as my adult self. But then I get right here and I'm like, Bea, I just need you. And I'm like, whoa, whoa. And so much of the work I've done now is the recognizing of it so quickly where I'm like, ooh, I'm doing that thing. And it's not always perfect. And it's so important to have a partner that is doing the work and that you can speak this language with. Because if you're trying to do this work and say, hey, I really need some reassurance right now, but you're dealing with someone who is just going to be in their 7, 8-year-old selves, you can't really work from that place. And so that's kind of difficult too, because this is really next level work. And as I've been dating recently, I have the podcast, I'm obviously doing research, not a lot of people are really understanding of all of this. You know what I mean? Because this is next level stuff. And it shouldn't be, but it is.
Honestly, if I were to give one tip for dating, it's like if
Please.
or choosing somebody, it's exactly what you're saying. It's like if someone is willing and open and already doing their own work, if they're not, it is the struggle is so real because you cannot escape relationship without rupture. Period. Full stop. There's no such thing. So you know you're inevitably going to come up against each other's wounding. If you're not with someone who's willing to do their own work or willing to be in the work with you, it truly is a losing game. It's a
It's a
losing game.
losing game.
And I'm actually really curious if you'd be open to sharing, Drea, what you said. I actually think is very important, which you start to notice when you're dysregulated, your voice gets higher and maybe you start to talk faster. And you can start to notice it really quickly now. What allowed you, how do you know when you're dysregulated? Because I actually think it's a really important piece for people to understand why or how to understand what their kind of cue is for their own dysregulation. So how did you start to understand, oh, that's what I do. That's how I know I'm dysregulated?
So for me, years of work, therapy, I've done 12-step programs. The somatic work was really profound for me, feeling it in my body. So I get this tightness in my chest. As you said, the brain gets hijacked. I tend to like, my body kind of turns in this weird way. The voice is a huge indicator. And I get really anxious. If I haven't heard from them, I'm on the phone. And it's sort of for me, like I've dealt with addiction stuff. So it's like this becomes everything. I wake up, it's consuming me. I can't eat. I can't think. I can't do anything other than figure out how I'm going to send this text to this person to get them to do the thing that I need them to do. Now, when I'm in a relationship, and it's happening. I see it in my face, and I'm like, everything is, I'm blacked out. Like I'm completely blacked out. Now, if I have a partner that is working with me on secure attachment and they can kind of stay in their adult selves, I then see it very clearly. But then if you're meeting someone who's matching you and your child, I can still see it, but it takes a little bit longer because we're both yelling and we're trying to get our point across and we're trying to control. And you talked about that abandonment. I remember the first guy I dated that was really doing the work, and I have goosebumps. And he said, Drea, I think we need to take just like 10 minutes and reset. Let's get off the call, take a beat. And I was like, wait, he's leaving me. But this man, it was 6:51, 7:01, he called me back. And he was like, okay, now let's talk from this place. And I'd never experienced that before. I'm just used to people just kind of going with me in that place. And then maybe we don't speak for a few days, all these really unhealthy things. So the somatic response for me was that first moment of like, ooh, this is not feeling right. And then really paying attention to, my therapist always says, clock it when I am in my adult self. How do I sound? What does my body feel like? What am I doing? What are my thoughts doing? So the racing, the voice, and the tightness in the chest, I'm like, okay, I'm starting to be hijacked. And sometimes I can bring it down. Sometimes I'm in it and I'm like, this is a moment, it will pass. And there's nothing I can do. But the gift is that there's the awareness around it. And now I'm not like running around like a chicken with my head cut off. I always say this on the show all the time. I used to go on dates as my 7-year-old self. You know, my dad abandoned me. Hello, sir. Can you take care of all my things? I don't know you, but here's all my baggage. Can you unpack it? And I didn't have the awareness to say, this is my stuff. And I love that you said that, having that moment where you're like, this person is giving 80%, 90%, and I'm still going, excuse me, no. So that was my journey with that.
Wow. Thank you so much for saying that. I think it's so important because so many of us, myself included, I still do this. Like we want to try and repair when we're super dysregulated. And when we don't understand that we're dysregulated, because some people, it's the heart racing, it's the fast talking, it's kind of and for other people, it's actually more of a numbness. And
Mm.
they think that they're regulated. They think that they're regulated, but they're just not there because what's
Oh,
underneath the numbness is so overwhelming that they've just covered it up and possibly dissociated, right? So dysregulation can look like so many things. And as a very important step in one's own individual journey is to begin understanding what dysregulation looks like. And I love that you're also talking about the baggage. I think this is so important because we bring every relationship that has preceded our current relationship into this new current dynamic. And as one's partner, it's important to know you cannot be in relationship with someone without all the other people who came before you. You
true.
can't. You can't. And so if I know that this relationship and what you're going to be bringing
Hmm.
is is not actually just about me, but about all the people that came before me. This is actually like where I get a little bit spiritual woo-woo-ish is
Girl, bring it
I
on. I love a spiritual woo woo moment. I'm here for it.
I truly believe, truly with all of my heart and soul, that relationships are dojos for us to heal our deepest wounds. And what
Mm,
we offer as a gift to our partners is that they come with their deepest wounds. And a lot of those didn't start with you, but they're going to be projected onto you.
yes.
And if I can sit on the other side of my partner's wounding and say it is part of my role as your partner to help heal the parts that have nothing to do with me,
Mm.
but are showing up here not because I have to, but because I love you. And this is what love is. Love is a verb, it's an action. Love is showing up for you, not because I have to, but because your wounds matter to me. Now,
Oh,
that doesn't
yes.
mean that my wife gets to like now unload on me and I have to take it. It's very, very different than that. But what it does mean is that when she comes to me with something and she's
Mhm.
hurting, I can look at my role, but I can also look outside of my role.
Mm.
I can zoom out beyond just our dynamic and understand this isn't just about the two of us. This is about every relationship that came before and her mom and her dad, blah, 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 and all the things that led up to us. And so, what it helps to do also in conflict is depersonalize the whole thing. So,
Oh,
I don't
Bea,
actually
so
have to
hard.
take it on. Oh
So
my God. Part of why it's so hard, though, is because we don't have this context. We're not thinking, oh, our partner is bringing wounding that has nothing to do with me when my partner is coming to me and saying, you're being a jerk and here's all the ways you're being a jerk. And so I'm not over here being like, wow, maybe that maybe like me being a jerk actually has nothing to do with me. I'm over here being like, it has everything to do, it's like, and
You're
now they're
calling me
blaming
a
me and
jerk.
why do I have to be blamed? Well, you know what you did? Like, right? This is part of why I think relationships feel so freaking hard is because we don't actually understand what relationships take. We are not trained to
No,
understand what a healthy dynamic, what a healthy long-term, secure functioning relationship actually takes to be in. It sounds kind of bogus for me to name Disney. Disney is in our cultural zeitgeist and has
yeah,
been, we grew up on fairy tales. We grew up on it. It
exactly.
lives somewhere inside of us. We grew up on Hollywood rom-coms. We grew up with social media and hashtag couple goals. We grew up
So true.
not just with our kind of community of people in relationships and seeing the inner workings of, well, they're good on some days, but also they struggle. No, no, no. We're just seeing the
No,
picture perfect couple online that has nothing like that's and so we haven't trained to be in relationships. And to me, creating healthy, long-term, secure functioning relationships is like climbing Everest because most of us were not modeled this. So
mm,
most of us actually don't come from secure backgrounds. Um it's like we need to be training for Everest, but we're training to go on a walk on a park. That's like what we think relationships are. We think relationships are
exactly.
putting on our gym shoes and going on a walk around the park, when actually we need to prep like we are going up Everest because that's what it takes.
That's what it takes.
Not because relationships should be easy. They're not. With all the wounding that gets brought into relationships, they're not easy. And listen, some dynamics will be easier than others. Some people come with a little less trauma. Those are going to be inherently easier, not easy. Some people, one person's going to come with trauma and one will be a little more secure. Some relationships, both people or all people, whatever dynamic you're in, are going to come with a bunch of trauma and all of you are going to have to face that. And that's going to be a harder dynamic. That doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean you're
Mm,
not but it just means we have to learn the skill. Like you're not going to go to Everest without training. You would
without
be
training.
insane. You would literally be
Right.
insane.
You
It
would
would
literally,
never
because
work.
you
You
would
would
die.
die. You
You
would
would
die.
literally die. I have a question. So I'm listening to you talk about being there for your partner, understanding their trauma. We all come with this trauma, right? So for years, I've heard, Drea, work on yourself, get healed, do all these things, and then get into a relationship. Spend time by yourself, do the work, heal. And I, girl, so I got to a point where I thought, I don't know what this ending place looks like because, first of all, like you said, I don't know if I'm ever going to just not feel abandoned in any way. Even with the guy that I was super secure with, there were still little moments that would creep up. Now, he had done so much work, so it was a lot less, but it wasn't 0% on my part where I was just walking around like, do, nothing. The moments where he did ask for pause, or I remember one time he asked for 2 days. And I was like, he hates me. But he was so honest and so predictable that I learned to be like, okay, he just needs a moment. But what are your thoughts on this idea of being completely healed before you get into a relationship? Because the trauma is there, right?
I think it is the most bogus. I think it's full BS. I don't actually even think it's possible because the truth
Think
is, our wounds don't actually show up unless we have something to project them onto. You can think you're super healed. You can think you've done all the work. What's that line? There's some line about like you think you're Buddha on a mountaintop, go spend a weekend with your family. Like
yeah,
we don't actually
okay.
know how messed up we really are until we get to project all of our stuff onto another person. And the people we project most onto are our intimate attachment figures. So
Right.
there actually isn't a way. I actually think it's a dangerous, um, I think it's a dangerous saying and cultural myth that has been propagated by the self-help industry
Yes.
that I truly don't even think it's possible to do most of your healing outside of relationship. I think we
And
could do some of it.
some of it. Right.
Sure. I think we could do, but like you and I probably both have friends who've been doing the work, who've gone to Tony Robbins or blah, 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 who've drank ayahuasca, who've done literally everything. And still you watch them in a relationship and you're like, ooh, wouldn't want to touch that with 10
Exactly.
football.
Ex-
Yeah.
exactly. And it's like, and it's so interesting, in a lot of areas of my life, I feel like I can show up. It all makes sense. I'm doing the right things. But when it comes to a romantic partner, all the things then have to be applied. So I can think I'm this person, the Buddha on the mountaintop, but then you don't call me back for 3 minutes. And I'm like, okay,
That's
it's
right.
time
And
to
you
go
think you're going to
into
know
gear.
that that's going to be kicked up when you're single and doing all your work on whatever wounding around what your attachment stuff.
Exactly.
No, you need to heal your attachment stuff in a relationship that can help heal your attachment stuff. I love that you use the example of that guy that you dated who was like, let's take 10 and then
Oh,
literally called you back in 10.
literally.
Because what it helps you do is even if that never fully goes away, even if the abandonment stuff never ever fully leaves you, it it little by little helps quiet that part so it's not the loudest one in the room. And
Exactly.
when we're looking for green flags, when we're looking for healthy dynamics, we're looking for people who are willing to do that work with us. Now, that doesn't mean your stuff isn't going to ignite their stuff and they're not going to get super like our triggers are going to trigger each other sometimes.
Right.
Sometimes you won't be able to say, "Hey, I need 10." But on the majority of occasions, if you're able to actually say, "Hey, I'm going somewhere, but I'm coming back."
Oh, Bea.
For especially music to your ears, right?
Yeah, I'm
And by the
coming
way,
back.
this by the way, as a note to my avoidant friends out there, of which my wife is one, and I run more anxious. It helps you get what you want. So if you need space as the avoidant, if you need as a more avoidant, whatever you want to call it, as the distancer, as the whatever. If you need more space, the way you're going to get it without your more anxious or more pursuer partner texting and wondering where you are, knocking on the door or whatever, you just need to tell them you're coming back.
Yes.
And it will give you the space that you need. You just say, I need 10. You say, I need an hour. You say, I need a day. I'll check in and whatever. But if you say you're coming back, it helps down regulate the part of you. You can still be scared. It doesn't mean you're not going to. In fact, Emmy, my wife and I got into probably the biggest fight in our whole relationship 2 weeks before we got married.
Oh,
And it was over something
wow.
ridiculous. It was like She invited someone to the wedding without telling me. It was obviously one of those things that was the fight is not about the fight, like one of those. And the fight was not about the fight. It was like she wanted freedom and I wanted safety. And it it devolved so quickly that we ended up taking 2 nights apart. Now, for her, that's a dream. That's like, she gets to go and do whatever she wants. She's not thinking about it. She's playing pickleball. And I am just sitting in a stew of my own shit. Like, I am just like, this is the worst thing. Are we even going to walk down that? Are we even going to marry? Is this actually going to happen? Anyhow, so one night I'm sobbing myself to sleep and I like that ugly cry where like snot ever. I'm just like sobbing. I can't breathe. And all of a sudden I hear me, but like a smarter version. And I hear her be like, hey, I've got you. Cry all you want. Cry all you want. I'm not going anywhere. And guess what? You chose a good partner and she's coming back. And even if she doesn't come back, I'm not going anywhere. I've got you. And I'm sobbing. I'm still sobbing. I'm still sobbing. And I'm listening to his voice. Okay, okay, okay. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to listen to you. Okay. You know, and
Yeah.
over and over again and over and over again. Hey, let's take a couple breaths. I've got you. I'm not going anywhere. Oh, you need another round of crying. Let's go. You're not too much for me. You're not too big for me.
Mm-mm.
And so I actually ended up changing my vows 2 weeks later. Something hit me in that moment. And my vows ended up being the most vulnerable thing I can do in our relationship is give you my heart and say, here, you have my heart. And I've already done that. But what I want to be able to do is say, here's my heart. Please don't break it. But what I
Mm.
know I'm saying is, here's my heart. I know you'll break it. I know there are going to be moments when you drop it. And in the moments, you can't pick it up because you're in your wounding, you're in your thing, you're in your pain. I will do the work of picking it up myself so that we can come back together. I'm telling you that one move from, okay, she can't be here right now. She needs 2 days. I don't want 2 days. She needs 2 days. She
I don't
can't be
want two
here right
days,
now.
Drea. Ooh, I don't want two
And
days.
here I am taking care of myself over and over and over again. What it actually does is helps heal those parts of myself that are so deeply alone, those parts of myself that I want a partner to heal, but ultimately in my heart of hearts, I know it's sort of an empty well and my partner can't heal it because this is a wound. It's such a deep loneliness, abandonment, belonging wound that part of it is just mine to do, but it's mine
Right.
to do in relationship. It's like there's my work in relationship and then there's our work in relationship and then there's her work in relationship. And it's all important.
I love that you said that because what that says to me is what I could not do many years ago. It's the self soothing. That being such an important part of being in a relationship. Because before I did any of the work, I thought any issue, any rupture, anything that I had, you need to fix. But that's actually not true. That is
Same.
actually still part of that journey of me helping myself, helping my inner child, healing those wounds because your partner cannot do everything. And that's so beautiful that you had that experience of that deep cry, was able to heal yourself, self-soothe yourself, and then honor the fact that those moments are real in a relationship where your partner can't pick you up, but it doesn't mean the end. I mean, that
Totally.
is so beautifully said because and you know it's beautiful because I'm a woo woo person too. I'm like the fact that that happened 2 weeks before you guys walked down the aisle, right? To have
Totally.
that beautiful revelation and what that did to you mentally to change how you viewed your relationship is really beautiful. Because even for me, like I understand that, but hearing you say it right now is so helpful because it's like, yeah, that is a deeper level of work to say I'm going to have to pick myself up sometimes. And it doesn't mean I'm with the wrong person. It doesn't mean
Absolutely.
that. It doesn't
Absolutely.
mean that.
Which in the days of swiping and in the days of having such high expectations for what a relationship needs to give us, it's so easy to it's much easier to leave today than it ever has been.
And
And not
that's
to say that some people shouldn't, right? That
right.
but I think we've lost it's almost like we don't know the difference between when to leave and when to lean into the work. And so it's just easier to leave. And we live in a culture and a society that gives us ease in the virtual world, however we want it. We can swipe to date without ever leaving our houses. We can grocery shop without leaving our houses. If we like one brand, we're going to be scrolling Instagram and seven other brands exactly like that are going to be fed to us. And so there is this false sense of ease that's created in the virtual world that isn't replicated in a human to human dynamic like a relationship. And so it feels completely disjointed. Like, wait, this is so hard, but so much of my life is so easy. We
Oh,
don't really have the ability to, or it's almost like, actually, my supervisor Esther Perel says this. She talks about it as
love
social
her. Die for
atrophy.
her.
Me too. I
Love
love her
her.
too. And I think this is brilliant. I think what she brings up is a really important point, which is this idea of social atrophy, that the skills needed to be in relationship are now being swiped away. We don't have to actually deal with the friction that relationship requires of us in our day-to-day lives. And so we're losing the ability to have healthy conflict. We're losing the ability to disagree and be in a conversation that's mature and adult. We don't have to talk to somebody who has a political affiliation that's different than ours. We don't have to talk to someone who's not the same race as us. We don't actually have to do that. Like, we can stay in our own little bubble of our very safe little world, and that's all we'll ever really need to do. But then now you put us in a relationship and you're supposed to be able to handle your partner being really mad at you. It's something you didn't think you did wrong. Well, it's easier to leave.
Exactly. It's so, and that's why it is so hard to date these days, because this idea of taking care of yourself, self-soothing, and I'm all about self-care, self-love, and all these things. But when you think about, and I love that you talked about the ease in which we get all these things, and then putting that up against conflict in a relationship, and you're like, well, I'm not doing that. I got Amazon Prime, and you better be
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Amazon Prime in my relationship, or I don't want to do this.
Great way to put it.
You know
Great way
what I
to put it.
mean? I'm getting this in 24 hours, maybe even
Yeah,
five
yeah.
hours. So I'm not dealing with any of this. And finding partners that really understand that has been very difficult, because you can swipe. There is a woman or man or whatever that's going to do whatever I want them to do, because everything over here is very easy. And we're losing this togetherness. Like you said, we're losing this idea of like, it's okay to disagree and stay together. Right. And so what I found for me is that, I'm showing up like, hey, these are all my things, being vulnerable, working to be honest. And not everybody's doing that. People are very guarded. They're like, don't put a label on it. Don't call him back. Don't show your cards. And I'm like, when do I tell him I like him? And I always tell a guy this: I'm transparent. I have been this way since I was 12 years old. If you need me not to like you for you to like me, you're not my guy. You're not my guy. Like, I don't
Love,
want to
love,
do
love,
all of
love,
that.
love.
I don't want to pretend that I'm busy. And I am the friend where my friends say, Dre, you can't say that to him. I said, why not? Why not? Why can't I say this to him? This is the person that I'm sleeping with, I'm eating meals with, I want to share my life with, but I can't tell him how I feel because he's going to go. Well, then let him go.
Yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
cannot say
Great.
you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. If that is your person and they want to show up for you and they like you and they've made this commitment to you, they're going to figure it out with you. Now, those people are far and few in between these days. Unfortunately, I have been online dating. And what I find is, as soon as something comes up, I really work to be in my adult self. I communicate my needs. And I do understand that I am of the sensitive variety. I am, but I don't want to have to pretend to be cool, because I'm not cool. I'm not chill. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah. That's
a
not what you're
girl.
going to end up in a relationship with. Honestly, I
Not.
actually have a friend who recently started dating somebody, and on one of their first dates, they were like, they decided, it was like, I don't know, 3 to 5 dates in, they decided to talk about where they were actually going to get tripped up in the relationship. So what are you going to be like when you get triggered? Like, what am I actually going to see?
Ah,
Because we put our quote unquote best foot forward, but that's not who you're going to end up in a relationship with. It's just
no,
not.
it's not. It's really not. And I recently met this man, and he lives in another country, unfortunately. And he said to me, because I was going to go visit him, and that's still up in the air at the moment, but he said, I want to see how we disagree, like to see what this really is. And I've not heard many people say this. And I was like, yes, because your relationship, and that's why I was so drawn to your page, is in the ruptures and the repairs. And I love the quote on your page, we learn how to fall in love, but not stay there. There aren't things staying there. Those Disney things that we saw growing up, planting all these seeds. And whether people think, like, oh, that didn't affect me. Yes, it did. The seeds were planted, and whether you know it or not. You know what I mean? And so it's so beautiful when a person really understands that we are going to disagree. We're not going to get along all the time, and how we treat each other, the respect, like, can we take a pause? And how do you treat me when you don't like me? Like, when you don't like me very much. That is so
Honestly,
important.
I think it's one of the, talking about green flags, like I do think it's one of the biggest green flags is when somebody wants to see. It's for sure my litmus
Yes.
test of how to build trust and how to see whether or not we can move forward. Like, truly is what happens when we rupture. Doesn't mean we're going to be
Yes.
perfect. We might hurt each other, but how do we come back? I mean, that's just and are you willing to take accountability, and are you willing to hear me, and are you willing to walk through the fire with me? I mean, that's a big deal.
That is a
I
big
don't
deal.
believe you can truly start to know what a relationship is going to take until you have your first fight. I think it's the first fight, and subsequent fights are super important in that first year.
Bea, you, girl, it's literally like I'm looking in a mirror. Honestly, you are me, I am you. Seriously, because I have said that
Totally.
forever. I do not know who I'm dating until we have our first fight. And once we get that
100%.
first disagreement, I hear it in their tone, I hear it in my tone. I'm like, okay, well, let's see what we about to do. Let's see what we about to do. Let me see what I'm working with. I'm like,
Okay.
girl,
Yeah,
let's
yeah, yeah, let's go. Okay. Yeah.
let's see what we got. Who are you? Who am I? You know what I
Yeah, yeah,
mean? And
yeah.
and it's always so great when you then come back together, because that creates real intimacy and friendships too. Always in friendships. When
Totally.
I get a new friend, I know at some point, if we're friends for long enough, there may be a disagreement. Maybe there's canceled plans. How do we handle that? You know what I mean? All these things are so real. And so I want to ask you, we talked about pausing, we talked about consistency, these green flags that you look for. What are some other green flags that people can look for when they're looking to date and finding a partner?
My top green flags are, have they been in their own work, and are they willing to do the work in relationship? Like, is that something that they're open to talking about, willing to do? Um, and are they willing? Can they? Not are they willing, because we've both been with the sweet talkers. Can
Yeah.
they actually show you with their actions that they can take accountability, that they can feel remorse, that they
Mm,
can speak without blaming? Right? All of these things are really, really important green flags. I mean, all the green flags that I'm going to think of are going to be around repair, around rupture and repair. That's because that's
exactly.
to me the most important thing, period. I mean, listen, I know I'm in a lesbian relationship, so it's a little bit different with the kind of U-hauling thing, but we were in therapy by month 3. We were like, cool, let's just see what's here. Let's see, what
Girl,
our
I
what our
love all
stuff
that. I'm
is.
like, let's get into it. Let's get
Yeah,
into
I think
it. Let
it's
me see who I'm
really,
with.
really, yeah, I think it's really, really important. So those are the biggest green flags for me. I also think, especially with men,
Hmm.
meeting their friends, because men have really been socialized, trained, and it's really been beat out of them to be vulnerable and to understand their emotions. And on one hand, I actually have a lot of compassion, because the same thing that makes them a quote unquote real man is is the thing that keeps them disconnected in relationships, and it's the exact
Yes.
thing that many women are now wanting, which is more emotional attunement and vulnerability, but they have no modeling of that. And not only that, but they've had the anti that. They've truly learned that vulnerability is weakness, and that's ingrained in
Yes.
them in a major, major way. So I think meeting friends and seeing how they are together and how they talk, if you're in a heteronormative relationship, seeing how they talk about the opposite sex, I think is really important. Like, what are they do? How are they behaving? Are they the kind of guys who are like, oh, got to go back to the old ball and chain? That's
That language just disgusts me. Or if anybody calls their ex the C word, crazy, right away, I'm always like, okay, red flag. If they call her the B
yeah, yeah.
word, any kind of name calling, period, I'm like, okay. because at any point that could be me.
Well, and it's actually a great litmus test on a in your first couple of dates is to ask about their exes and see how they talk about them.
And I also ask it because I'm in heteronormative relationships. How do you feel about women? Because a lot of men
Great question.
don't like women.
And vice
There's this,
versa.
yes, and vice versa. You know what I mean? And all men are this or all women are that. And so people are sort of showing up to relationships for the intimacy part, but they don't actually like what a woman is about, what a man is about. And they're very angry. So they're kind of showing up like, and I say now when you're dating, everybody goes on the date like this. Well, what you gonna do? Well, what you
Really?
like?
That's what
Yes,
you're seeing?
that's what I'm seeing a lot of because people are so guarded. And then, you know, I really, the masculine, feminine roles, I obviously have a big personality. Okay. And when I'm, I'm
You?
in the room, I'm in the room. And so like, hi. So,
Yeah.
letting these men kind of steer the ship to make the plans. I'm not going to sit here and message you for 2 weeks on an app. I'm not doing it. I'm like, we talk, we connect, let's exchange numbers, let's have a coffee and move on. A girlfriend of mine, she was talking to this guy for 2 months on the app. Then she goes
Mm,
to meet him and she don't even like him. She didn't talk to him on the phone. They didn't
oof.
FaceTime. I don't have
Tough.
time for this. This
Tough.
lack of vetting. And for me, I just like you said, the 3 months therapy, some people might be like, oh my God, that's so soon. No, I'm like, I'm with that. Cause I shoot from that place. I am an emotional person. I do feel my feelings. And for the longest time, I felt so much shame around that. Like I needed to be cool and I had to do all these things to be chill and let them this and that. And I do not want to be in a relationship that dims my light or I have to be some version of myself to be with this man because I need to cater to him. I'm not doing it. So.
I have to tell you, as someone who grew up as like, I will be cool so that you don't have to see how sensitive I am and put on a full on mask. I mean, I was chameleon extraordinaire. Who do you want me to be? I will be here. Oh, you want to go snowboarding in the free on the coldest day of the year
I'm
on
down.
ice? I me, I'm
So
super
down.
cool. Of course I'll go. Meanwhile, like not in a million years, a year down the road when we're together, would I do that. Just so you know, like
Ever.
I mean, I would contort myself into like the stuff that I did just to be in a relationship with a person I wanted to be in a relationship with was like nobody should ever put themselves into the positions. It was
I'm telling
deeply
you.
unhealthy. So
I,
as
yeah.
someone who lived the opposite of what you did, it also doesn't work. So
No, Bea, I want to keep it clear. I did do that for many years. This is new Drea. This is Drea 2.0. Babe, I was
oh,
surfing
great.
with a man and I have a weave. This is extensions and I can't swim. I should be nowhere near the beach, Bea. Okay. And he's like, babe, you want to go surfing? I was like, yeah,
Do I
obviously.
ever?
Almost drowned and lost my life because he was hot. Okay.
I
So
I so relate. I just so relate. I don't have a weave, but I'm going to tell you what, I relate so deeply on all the ways that I have been like, "Ah, that sounds like a really good idea. Oh, you want to hike a volcano?" Mine
I know.
was mine was like I don't know, I was super into outdoorsy. I grew up in Utah in Salt Lake City, and so I was super into like the outdoorsy like climber whatever dude. And so I would be so extreme, like, oh my God, whatever extreme thing you want to do. Meanwhile, I hate camping. I don't want to
Hate
camp.
it. I don't want to
I don't
camp.
want to do it. I don't want to. You want to go backpacking 3 days? You and me? Obviously, let's go.
As
Yeah,
long as
no.
we're together, I don't care what we're doing. Okay. You want to go kayaking? Absolutely. I want to go kayaking. Are you there? I'll drown for you. Like,
Oh my God. I
girl,
did I did a full river raft, like whitewater river rafting guide training to do it with my boyfriend who wanted to do it. At the end of the training, our boat capsizes. I get stuck under the boat for the whole rapid. I get up and I thought it
Bea.
was the end of my life. I was like, yeah, not for me. Not for me. I've not been on the river since. So like the anyway.
But you know what? My heart is like, girl, you getting in that water. Okay.
Yeah,
You get,
totally.
I'm like,
Totally.
okay,
Totally.
okay. I'll
Which
do
for
it.
me, I don't know about for you, but for me, that was a consistent story of who I am is not enough for somebody to love me. And so I have to become whoever this person wants me to be. And I can chameleon. I can do that. I'm
Me too.
agile. I've got this.
I've
Um,
got it.
and it was not actually a story about being unlovable that was conscious. It was like, I'm just flexible. That's just who I am. I'm just a flexible person. Turns out I'm actually not that flexible and I'm pretty particular. Um, and
Bea,
I'm like
what's
a
your
cold,
sign?
I'm a Taurus and I'm also like an
Ah,
indoor outdoor cat. I'm like, I'm like, I'll go out in the sun, like beam, but like ultimately I want to go back inside.
exactly. Oh my God, Bea, you are so amazing. I really love what you just said about this thing of feeling like you're not enough, right? And showing up in relationships thinking like you have to just be whatever they want you to be and working on that part of yourself. Like I am enough. And also not just being in a relationship with someone who doesn't like you, but being in a relationship when someone does like you. Now that is like a whole other.
That's a whole 100%. That's like getting into it 100% because we we always come back to our baseline of safety. There's a quote, I don't know who said it and I'll probably butcher it, but it's something like we would rather live in a familiar hell than an unfamiliar heaven. And the idea being that safety as a baseline, even if we think we see safety and we're like, it looks like that, like it looks like security, it looks like health, blah, blah, blah. But actually, what we think is safety is the tug of war, the push and pull, the he's not quite there, he doesn't like me that much. And that actually feels like I'm always going to come back to baseline as safety because, as quote unquote safety, not because it's actually safe, but because it's familiar. And so we
Yeah.
really have to train. It takes ourselves to train ourselves to little by little expand our capacity for intimacy and connection and love. Um, I mean, I work with, there's a couple right now who I'm working with, and one of the partners deeply wants closeness from her partner, but
Mm,
every time he comes near, her body completely shuts down. Right. So it's like, what is the work of going little by little, expanding your capacity and meeting your edge so that you can tolerate a little bit of discomfort, but not moving so far that
right.
you're, completely dissociated or, in your amygdala or whatever.
Bea, you have been so amazing. This has been such an easy flow conversation. I really
Oh, it's been so
appreciate you
fun.
taking the time. Is there anything you want to leave our viewers with before we let you go?
One thing that I notice is, first of all, repair is a practice. Repair is a practice. It's not a one time quick fix. And I think apologies are the phrase I'm sorry has been so misused.
Mm,
And so the work of learning how to apologize well, I think is so important. And the truth of apologies is that sometimes it just takes a while. And so if you're struggling right now with repair isn't landing, the apology isn't sitting well with me, I'm struggling apologizing, it's so normal. It's so normal to be in that tug of war with yourself.
hmm.
I often say that you need to be bad at chopsticks on piano if you're ever going to get good at Beethoven. And because we haven't learned the art, the skill, the practice of repair, we think we should be good at it out of the gate. And if we're not, to go back to some of the pieces we've talked about, that it's a relationship that might not work, that it's a relationship
Mm,
that we just might not be quote unquote compatible or something. But it just takes practice. That doesn't mean you shouldn't leave. I'm not saying stay in every relationship or that every relationship you should stay in. But until you do the deep work of what do you need for repair and what do I need for repair, and how can we learn the skills that it takes to give that to one another, because it'll be
mm,
different things, and you start to see, oh, I messed up there, I'm really bad at this, oh, I need to work on that part of repair. You don't actually know what you two or three or however many of you there can be, what can be as part of your relational dynamic and where you two can go, because you're going to be stuck in what I call the power struggle phase, which is a
Mhm.
phase that a lot of couples get stuck in. And it's where your wounding comes up. It's where projections start to come out. It's where little things feel like big things. It's where your childhood trauma is going to start coming up. So the power struggle is where you're going to start to bump heads. But it's in this phase that if we face it, if we truly like go in and we're both in for the work here, so much can come out of that phase that in some ways it doesn't even matter if you end up staying together. If you
Ah,
do the work in that phase and things end, that work stays with you. No one can take that work away from you. And that's some of the deepest work we can possibly do in our lives, bias perspective.
oh my gosh, Bea, thank you so, so much. I appreciate you. And 1,000% we need to bring you back for
Oh,
a round two.
yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Drea. This has been so fun.
Of course. All right, guys. As always, don't forget this is the place for the hot mess expresses and the black sheeps of love. Before you go, make sure you hit that like, follow, and subscribe, and comment down below. Until next time, I'm Drea Renee, and this is Hey Babe, Can We Talk? Bye.